Hello, welcome to Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob, and in today's video, we're going to be asking ourselves a very important question. Now, Games Workshop on their website have broken up all of the different miniatures that you can buy in Age of Sigmar into different races. So based on their classification, we're going to be going through the races, their classification, obviously not mine, and we're going to be answering a question that someone on my Patreon has asked. There is a Patreon tier where you can ask me to make content on certain things. And so they've asked me to make a video on which race has the best toes in the game. Now, the dictionary definition of toe is any kind of mandible at the end of a foot. So that's what we'll be looking at. And we will be looking at them by race. And I would obviously like your input. That's important. The Twitch chat have joined me, as you can see. From the emotes, the Twitch chat have joined me for this hard-hitting thing. And obviously, I won't be choosing the best ones. They will be choosing. So I'd like you to know that I've been asked to do this. I'm using Games Workshop's metric, and it's the Twitch chat who'll be deciding. So I'm just kind of a captain upon a very scary boat. So let's hop to it. Let's put our best foot forward, and let's make some probably hard-hitting and riveting content. The game's afoot. The first race via Games Workshop's classification on their website is demons. And there were some hot contenders. Horticulate Slimmux has got himself a bug, or like a snail, with multiple different feet, meaning the quantity of toes was very high. So honourable mention to that. And also, the Great Unclean One, being a rather large model, had some pretty beefy toes, which also scored quite well, and another honourable mention. But voted via the chat...
I'm sorry you had to cancel your WikiFeet sub. Please use this to renew your subscription so you can stop unleashing this deviancy on the chat.
Thank you to Gangster Paradise for donating £10 to the show, and also that is now a permanent fixture of the YouTube video, which is nice. That's very nice. Thank you. The chat decided that Epidemius ended up winning best toes, in Tootsies, best Tootsies in class or in race, specifically because of the way he sultrily is portraying them over his palanquin. Now, this is pretty exciting, actually, for the sculptor of this model, because obviously this is one of those older sculpts. I think it's still in fine cast. So the detail is not particularly high on this, but I think some really excellent kind of voting from the chat, really seeing through the kind of new and flashy toes that you get on a Great and Clean One, and really focusing on the kind of organic allure, I guess, of Epidemus. So congratulations to Epidemus. Going through the mortal section, mortal is a keyword that's given to any mortal race that joins chaos. So everything you can see in here is chaos. Now, we'll talk about the winner at a minute, but honourable mentions obviously go to Glutos or Scullion, who is quite bashful about having his feet out on the big palanquin there, and therefore didn't win, unfortunately. Also, shout out to the Chaos Ogres with the War Shrine, honourable mention, because they have got some big feet, and we did talk about size being maybe an important factor, but some people like long tootsies, and some people like short tootsies. Caracacolites, you get a lot of feet, like on these big swole JoJo's Adventures style characters, but the winner in this faction was the Blissbarb Archers. An unnecessary amount of individually sculpted toes available on the Blissbarb Archers. The chat overwhelmingly voted for this, with 67% of the chat voting for it. Very popular. And importantly for Tootsie fans, there are 11 models in this. So a single box is going to get you... Oh, God, why can't I do the math here? 11? 110 toes. 110 individually finely sculpted toes. So, pretty impressive, which is pretty good. So, yeah, that's the mortal winner. Congratulations. I should also mention, it's being brought out, that that's actually a pretty good pound per toe ratio. I think you get almost the same pound per toe rating out of the Caracacolites, which I think is also really worth talking about as well. Looking at the Celestials, these are all Stormcast Eternals, and unfortunately they're in what we like to call one of the boring shoe factions, where there are no tuts available in any way. One of the rumours that has come up is that during the reforging process, and if you're not sure how this works, when a Stormcast Eternal soul is stolen by Sigmar and turned into a Stormcast Eternal, they're normally like a human or something, or a dwarf or whatever, they get put in through the reforging process, which makes them a mighty Stormcast Eternal. Now, the rumour is that their soul loses a bit of who it was, but they might be a shoe-based faction because also they get reforged with no toes. No toe. So this might be a pure no toe faction. There's no way to disprove this. So in the future, to my mind, not only are Stormcast Eternals a boring shoe-based faction, they're also a no toe faction. Or maybe maybe they don't even have any feet, because as we've talked about, their souls are stolen. Soul of the foot, soul. We always thought it meant soul as in your immortal soul, but it might have just very simply been about feet. We don't know, but Age of Sigmar might be an entirely feet-based game. Next up for the human key faction or race, as described by Games Workshop, if we scroll through, you can see that there's a lot of Stormcast Eternals here, and again, a lot of very shoe-based sculpts in here, but with the fanatic faith and fury driving them to the first spot, and also default first, I know that sucks in some cases, but default first, you can see it here, are the Flagellants with their Tootsies out. And again, a good Tootsie to cash ratio. They're quite a cheap box at £20, which is pretty good. And you will get over 100 Toots out of this, which is pretty good. They're an older sculpt, though, so don't be expecting precision on them. But yeah, not bad. But winner by default, unfortunately, or footfault. So there we go. Moving into the elf race, you would think that they wouldn't be a very shoey race, but actually, it seems most of Order are very shoe-based, if I'm honest. I'm not really sure, but we did have two standouts. After working out that paws have toes, which was hotly contested in the chat, it did turn out that the Hurricane Wind Spirit is an honourable mention in this category, mainly by, just being there, effectively, because as we've said, again, very shoe-based. However, obviously, the Cenari Cathalar out there with the Toots prominent for the world to see is the clear and out winner. The chat voted for that as the winner. Based on a very famous actual physical sculpture, you can see here. Absolutely 11 out of 10. Congratulations. Well done, chat, for voting for that. Moving on to Skaven. And obviously we have a lot of pause, and the voting on this really gave us pause for thought. Thank you so much. Now, there's a lot of shoes in this faction as well, but we do have a couple of honourable mentions and a clear winner. So one of our honourable mentions is the Warlock Bombardier, showing off a couple of Tootsies, and under a long cloak, so being quite bash and shy about it. But as you can see there, just poking out. But honourable mention. I didn't quite win it. Now, in the long and strong category, we did get the Storm Fiends with a little bonus brain rat toe at the back, but they got some love. They got some love here, and they were very close second. But for long but slender, it's the new Deathmaster sculpt that ended up taking it out. The chat overwhelmingly voted for this as the strongest one. I think I agree. Long and Strong, though, came in a close second, which I think, they should be proud of. Moving on to the Orruk race, as defined by Games Workshop, it's important to point out, we had a couple of honourable mentions. The Marshcrawler Sloggoth with some very creepy toes. Turns out the chat are quite a big fan of the creepy toes in here as well. And also the Breaker Boss on Mire Brute Troggoth, now renamed to the Breaker Boss on Mire Brute Togoth. Has got some actual big, beefy Tootsies, but unfortunately didn't make it honourable mention. However, the big winner was the Wargog Prophet. Not only is it an amazing sculpt, and one of the oldest sculpts as well, but as you can see, doing something fairly unique a lot of the other sculpts haven't done, which has given us a bit of soul action. We've got a bit of undertoe. Most of the toes we've been looking at so far have been the top of the foot. This is an all-around toe experience. Not only the top of the toe, the under of the toe, and the in-between of the toe. So you get an entire toe experience. And the chat were very insistent, the chat specifically, were very insistent about this being something that they were really focusing on, getting as much toe per miniature as possible. As we talked about earlier, obviously pounds per toe is important, but getting the whole toe experience has been really important. Like the total eclipse of the heart. Anyway, going into the Ogre race section, as defined by Games Workshop, again, a lot of shoes, makes a lot of sense, but we do have two absolute footsie flashes out there. There's the Firebelly, with some very well-defined toes, and obviously a warm toe, but the chat, so that's our honourable mention, but the chat have voted, weirdly, not for warm toes, but instead for cold toes, belonging to the Blood Pelt Hunter. A similar sort of sculpt as, you know, the Firebelly, so I can only really base this on the chat wanting them to be cold versus warm, which I don't really understand, but that's their decision. Blood Pelt Hunter winning best Tootsies for the Ogres. Moving into the Grot race, as defined by Games Workshop, we have the Squig Herd with an honourable mention, as you can see. Lots of toots and feets out, but shout out to the Squig eating one of our goblins, giving us an entire foot experience, which is fun. Our other big honourable mention is the Rabble Rouser, with some very well-defined toots on a very small mini, so quite complicated to paint and put together, but very impressive nonetheless. But in probably, to no one's surprise, it has to go to the Toea palooza, the Palooza here. Just absolutely stunning as a miniature set anyway. Just maybe the best miniature set in all of Warhammer. I think that's actually a fair point. But the availability of Tootsies here are just fantastic. Not only do we have Scaremonger, the guy carrying Scaremonger with a whole foot out, we've even got even smaller baby Grots with Tootsies out, which is just adorable at this stage. We're going for adorable as the rating for this, and this is just 11 out of 10. Just great work. The winner of the Grot category, the Palooza. Moving on to the Dwarden race, and for Warhammer Fantasy fans, or just fantasy fans in general, as I assume this video has gone incredibly viral, we're talking about dwarfs. Now, obviously, dwarfs normally in big metal, shod shoes. However, the Fire Slayers definitely out there with their toots on display, and have been since the beginning of Age of Sigmar. Shout out to the Volkite Berserkers with an honourable mention. You get a lot of toes per pound in this particular purchase, which is good. Another honourable mention, and honestly a close second place, is the Grimwrath Berserker. He's got that kind of weird heroic scale situation that Games Workshop had in the past, where they made their hands and heads of miniatures bigger than the bodies. They all used to be 28mm. Games Workshop generally has updated all of its ranges now, so they're all 32mm scale. However, what you've got is a 32mm scale Grimwrath Berserker body with what looks like to be a 40mm Grimwrath Berserker foot. Therefore, those Tootsies are bigger than the body should be. Pretty good. We love that. However, in top place, and with toe place, without any surprise to anyone, is the OG, Grombrindle the White Dwarf. Not only are all of the Tootsies out on display, there's also a significant toe gap, which the chat are adoring. Absolutely adoring. They keep writing toe gap in the chat. I don't understand why, but they do. So, Grombrindle the White Dwarf with the big toe gap is the winner for the Dwarden race. Looking at the Lizardmen race, as again, according to Games Workshop, we have some honourable mentions. First out to the Skink Starseer with some little toots in there, like quite well defined, but still not 100% perfect. Still not 100% perfect. A special shout out for some diversity. We got the Slan Starmaster with some webbed feet, making very specific kind of toes for webbed feet fans out there. But unfortunately, that didn't take it into first place because the rider, the Saurus Scarvet on Agrodon, but specifically the Agrodon, has gone and got himself an almost like toe thumb which is a unique new kind of like toe design we haven't seen often. So a toe thumb kind of takes first place here in what was a hotly contested field in the Lizardmen. Looking at the Troggoth race, it is an embarrassment of riches, to quote Chronicity in the chat, because we've got toes galore, and to quote, obviously, D&D Oddjob in the chat, this is like the Fire Slayer situation. Also, I think Dadbod said that as well. It's a Fire Slayer situation all over again. There are so many toes, we almost don't know what to do with it. Like I'll be thinking about this all day, maybe even tomorrow. In honourable mention, we have the Fellwater Toegoths. They've got some older toes, big gaps, and webbed for diversity, but they got an honourable mention and not first place. In second place, we have the updated and pretty cool Rockgut Toegoths, with some very good tuts out there. But in every way, the detail and effort put into the Dankhold Toegoths and their 6 perfectly formed tuts is beyond me. Every detail in here is absolutely beautiful, with edge highlighted. Shout out to the heavy metal painter who spent a significant portion of their professional career edge highlighting the toenails on the Dankhold Toegoth. Incredibly impressive. Well done. And Dankhold Toegoth in first place. Again, an embarrassment of riches here is a huge amount of massive feet available to the Gargant race. Now, we have a couple of different versions. You do have King Brod. Specifically, you got the Kraken Eater and King Brod, who've got like a sandaled foot. Okay? A sandaled foot. So you definitely get a little bit more kind of like toe separation here, which I think is important. But based on wanting to see most of a whole foot, we're going to give the prize out to the Gatebreaker with just an absolutely massive set of toes available. So if you were a toe fan and you wanted to get into, you wanted to get to the taupe of the game, then probably you would pick yourself up a Gatebreaker. Big, healthy, strong, potent toes available. There's not a lot of them, obviously, and it's a very expensive pound to toe return. You don't get a lot of toes per pound in this situation. I think we worked out earlier, it was like 30p per toe for a unit of Blitzbarb Archers. But in this situation, with only 8 toes and at £130, you're paying over £10 a toe. So while excellently and very highly detailed, they're a very expensive toe to purchase and put on the tabletop. So I think that's something that people need to think of, especially before you put your best toe forward and pick yourself up one of these. But congratulations to the Gatebreaker. Sylvaneth, there's lots of options. Most of them are made of wood, but I think it's an undeniable first place here, as voted by the chat, that Alariel, the Everqueen, has got the Tootsies. Not only are they the toes of like a superstar, they're also the toes of a goddess. And so they obviously win. They win quite a lot of awards because most of the other toes are not divine. These are the toes of a goddess herself. So in first place for the Sylvaneth, Alariel with the toes of heaven. Finally, in our Undead section, we've got Mordants in here, as well as vampires. Now, the chat are screaming for Lucavi to make it in there, but I'm pretty certain Lucavi is rocking claws and not toes. But the chat have just got to toe the line on this one. That's what I'm going to say. But we've got some really cool sculpts, and I have a Volga in third place. With some good padded feet. And then in a strong second place with a strong and long is also Radikar the Beast with some very powerful tootsies. But with a bashful and to kind of wrap us up, soft and demure towage is Belladama Volga. Just showcasing them. The Granny. So not only undead vampire Wolverine feet, but also those of a grandma, which is nice. I've hoped you have enjoyed this video. This video is designed to hopefully bring a little bit of joy to your wargaming experience this weekend. Thank you to the chat for the 4 hours it's taken to record this video. and I hope everyone has enjoyed the experience as I. Now, if there are any toes that I've missed off, please do leave them in the comments below. That would be really good. And as always, if you would like to help me make some videos, you can join the Honest Wargamer Patreon, and you can support the show so that I can create content such as this, necessary in today's trying times, but also you can help formulate what we will be covering in the future. Thank you to everyone on the Honest Wargamer Patreon. This one is dedicated to you. I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much.